Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Andrew Yang, and we're going to talk about the November 27th, 2019 Jimmy Kimmel encounter with Andrew Yang. It was labeled on YouTube as an interview. You'll see it labeled under an interview. So let's talk about this. So Andrew Yang went on Jimmy Kimmel's show on ABC. I think it's called the Jimmy Kimmel Show. And it's structured and it has presentation as a late night entertainment show, right? But we're going to talk about that in depth today. Exactly what Jimmy Kimmel's show is, right? Today. So let's get into this. So there's been a lot of debate overall about whether this was a good interview or a bad interview for Andrew Yang. By the way, I don't even think this was an interview. I think it was something different. That'll be clear before we're done here. All right, so, but there was debate on what, the event that had when Andrew Yang sat down with Jimmy Kimmel on November 20th, 27th, 2019, what happened? Was it good for Yang or was it bad for Yang? Okay. And there's a lot of debate even within Yang Gang, within, Andrew Yang's supporters. All right, so I want to give my take on this today. What happened in this event? Was it good for Andrew Yang? Was it bad for Andrew Yang? What are the ramifications of it beyond for the American people? Because I think there's very significant ramifications for this event, for the Jimmy Kimmel, Andrew Yang, November 27th event. Okay? All right, so first of all, what actually happened? So Andrew Yang went on to Jimmy Kimmel's show. He sat down where a guest would normally sit down. And then what would appear to many people to be an interview began, right? This was clearly not an interview, in my opinion, right? It was something very different than an interview, right? And so basically, immediately, like literally the second sentence, the antagonism from Jimmy Kimmel to Andrew Yang began, right? Now, you could find right here on this channel a video that has well over 2,000 views that talks about Jimmy Kimmel's early dismissal of Jimmy Kimmel to Andrew Yang as a serious candidate, right? And so basically, immediately in this, when the two sat down together, and Jimmy Kimmel said, "Hey, you're not a politician. What makes you think you can run for president?" Right? He said a little different words than that, but he was saying, "Hey, you're not a politician. Why do you think you can be a politician?" Right? Now, this is an outrageous question, right? Nothing in the Constitution, nothing in our founding fathers established this this role to be available to farmers, right? Like, who basically the requirements for this job are to be noble. Right, that's it. Like, you just need to be a servant of this nation and have a desire to serve the people. That's all you're supposed to have, right? And so right from the gate, right, Jimmy Kimmel just goes right for the throat on Andrew Yang, using Jimmy Kimmel's own political daggers, right? Then Jimmy Kimmel proceeds to insult Andrew Yang, asking him if he's attractive, that if Andrew Yang is actually attractive to his wife, right? Made incredibly disparaging jokes about, well, actually, he made disparaging remarks about Andrew Yang's slogans, and really very much bullied, in my opinion, attempted to verbally bully Andrew Yang and belittle him, right? It was from I would say at least 1/3 of the sentences in the interview were not antagonistic. The rest were completely antagonistic, right? So in my opinion, this did not help Andrew. Actually, I think it did help Andrew Yang, but in a very unusual way. So I think Jimmy Kimmel, he was incredibly antagonistic through the entire event toward Andrew Yang. He was continuing a line of trying to discredit. So I think that, in my opinion, this was the goal of this event with Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel intended to discredit Andrew Yang as a candidate, to discourage Andrew Yang thoroughly and personally, and to disavow every American that he could get this content to of the idea that anyone who is not a politician can run for political office, which is outrageous and goes against the very nature of what this country was founded on, right? So this was an incredibly destructive attempt to dismantle Andrew Yang personally and Andrew Yang as a candidate, right? Now, with that said, I think this is a fantastic event. And the reason why is there's a huge amount of value in this, right? So what is the value in what Jimmy Kimmel did, right? Now, I also am thankful to Jimmy Kimmel for what he did, because there's a real need for some change. And I think this is going to be the catalyst. This is going to be fuel for what allows that change to move forward, okay? All right, so one, shockingly, we are still having trouble explaining to people the Yang media blackout. I think a lot of people don't understand how bad, how incredibly damaging the Yang media blackout is to Andrew Yang's candidacy. But this is incredibly clear, right? So basically, this moves beyond Yang media blackout to Yang media hackout, right? This is Jimmy Kimmel just taking his political axe to the root of the tree of Andrew Yang's candidacy, and right, just trying to chop it down, right? Trying to personally insult him. The antagonism is so bold, and basically one of the things I'm really appreciative of with Kimmel is, for a long time, a lot of people in Hollywood and in the media, actually specifically in the media, there's a lot of confusion about what people are doing. And so for a long time, Jimmy Kimmel has been pretending to be an entertainer or a comedian. And I really appreciated that in this interview, he just took the mask off and said, listen, I am not an entertainer. I am not a comedian, right? You're not going to find any jokes in this interview, right? In this charade of an interview, this event, right? I don't think, it's not appropriate to call it an interview. It wasn't an interview. It was like, I just watched a movie called, The Irishman, and they talked about painting houses, right? Well, this is Jimmy Kimmel politically trying to paint a house. He is trying to destroy at the foundation Andrew Yang's ability to pursue the presidency, right? And the thing that I value is it's so bold-faced. And there's no more pretending that Jimmy Kimmel is an entertainer or a comedian. He's just a political commentator, right? And not only, so one, he's a political commentator. He's making that incredibly clear. His bias is for the establishment, and his disposition is antagonism toward anyone who is non-establishment, right? And I really appreciate that Jimmy Kimmel just pulls the mask off and stops pretending to be an entertainer, stops pretending to be a comedian, and just shows everybody exactly what he is. An incredibly active political commentator who is incredibly biased for the establishment, right? And frankly, there's no problem being biased for the establishment, right? If you're biased for the establishment, there's no problem with that as long as you're being truthful about it, right? And for a long time, Jimmy Kimmel was not truthful, right? He was pretending to be an entertainer, pretending to be a comedian, pretending that he was just like a little showman, right? But now we all understand he's a political commentator with an establishment bias, right? And with a disposition of antagonism toward anyone who is non-establishment, right? And there's incredible value in him showing this with his actions. Jimmy Kimmel still hasn't said this with his words, but anyone who watches this video with any type of objectivity will understand that Jimmy Kimmel is no longer functioning as an entertainer or a comedian. His show is pure political commentary. It is massively establishment biased, and it has the disposition of antagonism, right? Outright, political attack on anyone who is non-establishment, right? Now, why is this valuable? So first of all, let's talk about Andrew Yang. I am sorry that Andrew Yang had to pay this price, right? Now, the reason why I still think this is of value is, one, Andrew Yang is a strong person. He knew from day one that he was going to be attacked from the left, the right, and the center, right? So this wasn't, Andrew Yang has his armor on every day, right? And you could see that he had his shield up. He knew what was happening, right? And Andrew Yang has no more illusions that anyone is going to make even a single step of this journey easy for him, right? That establishment is arrayed against him, right? And it is political daggers out every single day, right? And so I don't think that Andrew Yang should have to pay this price with his own candidacy, right? But the benefit is too high, right? So what is the benefit of Jimmy Kimmel doing this? Well, here, let's dig into it, all right? So right now, I've been saying this for a while, and this is massive, massive proof. This is foundational proof of what I've been saying for quite a while now, right? We need massive media regulation, right? So we already have government regulation for physical safety in multiple industries. I'll just give you one example today, right? The FPLA, the FPLA states that you have to be truthful in your It's the Packaging and Label Act, right? Forgetting what the F stands for. The Federal Packaging and Label Act, right? Okay, Federal Packaging and Label Act, the FPLA, right? It specifically says a company must be truthful in what is put into food, okay? It has to be truthfully labeled. It has to be truthfully packaged, right? And the media is ignoring this for their content, right? And they've had freedom for quite a while. And at a huge level, the media has been unregulated. I want massive federal regulation to be dropped on the media immediately, right? And so what I want is the Media Tag Act, right? And basically it would be the FPLA, truth in packaging and labeling for the media, right? And going forward, when you turn on a show, that show is going to need to say, this is entertainment, this is competition coverage, this is entertainment, or it is competition coverage, or it is reporting, or it is political commentary, right? It needs to be tagged truthfully, right? And this would help us because Jimmy Kimmel's show, right, is at 11. It's on at like 11:30 p.m. In a late night slot, and it is labeled and packaged like an entertainment show, the way Johnny Carson used to do, right? Johnny Carson was an entertainer and a comedian. Jimmy Kimmel is not an entertainer or a comedian in any way. Let's put it this way. Face the Nation comes on every Sunday morning. Face the Nation is less political than Jimmy Kimmel's show, right? And the reality is, and frankly, I think you would find more entertainment in Face the Nation than you would in any Jimmy Kimmel show, right? There are no jokes happening on Jimmy Kimmel's show. There's no entertainment happening on Jimmy Kimmel's show. So while he's packaging and he's labeling it as an entertainment show, it's clearly political commentary. And even more than that, it's actually a task shop, right? So Jimmy Kimmel is taking on the task of destroying candidates for the establishment, right? That's very, very specific, right? And that needs to be labeled. Now, why does this need to be labeled, right? You're like, hey, Scott, the reason we have the FPLA is people who have allergies, right? And so their physical safety can be in danger if things are mislabeled. Well, guess what? This is 2019. Wake up, right? Everyone is encouraging everyone else to go get psychological help, psychiatric help if they need it. And as a culture, as a culture and a society, we are saying, hey, psychology and psychiatry are of value. Right? And the reason why is we are now embracing the idea that we need to be safe, not just physically, but mentally, right? And if you have the type of gaslighting that's happening on Jimmy Kimmel's show, right, where he's saying, hey, everybody, I have the time slot, and I have the structure, and I have some of the elements of entertainment and comedy. And you think, right, because you're not paying attention, and because you're an average American, that this is entertainment and comedy. It's not. It's political activism. It's political commentary. It's political commentary, and what I'm doing is a task shop, right? I'm running a task shop, and that task is to destroy non-establishment candidates, right? That's what this is really all about. That needs to be labeled, right? And the reason why is if you don't have that situation and it's not labeled, gaslighting hurts mental safety, right? Everybody's been screaming this for a long time with Donald Trump, right? Well, we need to be consistent, right? If people are frustrated with Donald Trump for gaslighting the American people, right? Well, then we can't sit by and watch as Jimmy Kimmel gaslights the American people, right? Just like Donald Trump, just from the establishment's, just using the establishment's checklist of destroying non-establishment candidates, right? It is unfair and unsafe, right? Now, all this started back with Truman Capote. He wrote a nonfiction novel, right? This experiment in mixing entertainment and mixing reporting and mixing political commentary and mixing competition coverage, right? And not making it clear what anybody is watching. We started this experiment in 1966 with Truman Capote, right? With his novel In Cold Blood, right? This was worth trying, right? But the experiment is over, right? So 76, 86, 96, 2006, it's 50 years. The experiment had 50 years, right? And it's done. People's mental safety is at risk, right? And we need to stop this, right? The media needs a tag act. There needs to be a media tag act, and Jimmy Kimmel is massive foundational truth, foundational proof that the media needs to be massively regulated by the federal government at exactly the same level as foods, drugs, energy, transportation, where no one bats an eye when there are regulations that say your company can do this and it cannot do that, right? And so when I look at the absolute, political hit job that Jimmy Kimmel attempted, right? And actually, he absolutely did damage. There's no question of that, right? With his viewers, I think he very much discredited Andrew Yang as a candidate. But again, there's still value. And the reason why is this gaslighting of the American people by the media has to stop. And this is Exhibit A, right? We need to make this case and say, listen, we need to stop this. No one in America would allow a company to put peanut butter in a jar and label it caramel, right? And frankly, no one in this country should allow Jimmy Kimmel to continue to label and package what he does as entertainment or comedy. It is pure, unadulterated political activism with a massive establishment bias and with a very, very specific disposition of antagonism toward non-establishment candidates, right? And frankly, you know what? Jimmy Kimmel has every right to do it, right? He's an American. He has the freedom to do it. He does not have the freedom to mislabel it. He does not have the right to gaslight Americans, right? We are saying that Donald Trump needs to stop it, and frankly, we need to be consistent, and Jimmy Kimmel needs to stop it. We can no longer label entertainment and comedy as anything. We can no longer mislabel political commentary with a massive bias and a very specific disposition that is functioning as a task shop, right, to be labeled as comedy and entertainment. It is cruel, and it is unsafe, and it threatens the mental safety of Americans. All of that is my opinion. I would love to hear what you think. Do you think that the media should continue to be allowed to go without the regulation that we demand for virtually every other industry? If so, why? I'd love to hear it. And frankly, I do want to say thank you very much to Jimmy Kimmel. I really appreciate him taking the mask off and stopping the pretense that he is an entertainer or a comedian. He is just another political commentary. He does the same thing I do every day. He just does political commentary, right? And it's also really refreshing that he really removed any type of pretense that he has anything but an establishment bias, and it was really refreshing to see that he is, declaring with his actions his disposition, which is antagonism toward any non-establishment candidate. Right, so it's good. It's really good, and I'm also hoping that that other people who still think they're entertainers or comedians rather than political commentaries will be encouraged to do the same. So I do appreciate that from Jimmy Kimmel. It was brave to remove the pretense that he is an entertainer or a comedian. That is helpful. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.